In Korea, there's a saying the hardest relationship in a family isn't between husband and wife, it's between mother-in-law and daughter-in-law. Hae-sun thought she could be different. She thought her love would be enough. But when her eldest son brought home his bride, she discovered just how deep that cultural divide could run. Is the mother-in-law and daughter-in-law dynamic uniquely challenging in your culture too? What makes this relationship so complicated across generations? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Now, let's begin our story.
An old residential neighborhood on the outskirts of Seoul. On an autumn afternoon after the rain had stopped, Jung Hae-sun was wiping the living room window. Beyond the glass, a ginkgo tree with autumn-colored leaves swayed its branches. She stared at her own reflection in the window for a long time. A face well past 50, hair streaked with gray. Time had slipped by just like that. Today was the day her eldest son, Jung Yujin, was bringing his wife over for the first time since the wedding. On the table sat homemade cabbage, kimchi, bulgogi, and 3 kinds of seasoned vegetables, all arranged neatly. Not too salty, not too bland, nothing that would overwhelm someone tasting it for the first time. She'd checked the seasoning over and over. Then she glanced at the living room clock and let out a small sigh. They should be here any minute now. The doorbell rang. "Mom, we're here," her son's voice, followed by unfamiliar footsteps. She opened the door with a smile. Standing before her was a woman in a neat beige coat. "Nice to meet you. I'm Park Ji-yeon." She bowed slightly, polite as could be. Her tone was respectful, but her eyes, there was something closed off about them. Come in, come in. I've been waiting." Hae-sun carefully set their shoes aside as she spoke. But Ji-yeon just smiled cautiously and stepped inside. At the table, her posture was straight and proper. But tension filled her shoulders. Once they sat down to eat, Hae-sun started talking without being asked. "Our Ujin's always been such a hard worker. He helps around the house, and he's got such a good heart." Her son laughed awkwardly. "Mom, why are you bringing that up again?" Ji-yeon quietly picked up her chopsticks, then set them down. "I know, Mother. That's why I married him." The words held both courtesy and distance at the same time. After lunch, Hae-sun brought out fruit she'd prepared herself. "It's your first time here, you've gotta try what we do in this house." "It's okay, I'll cut the fruit." Ji-yeon quickly picked up the knife. For a moment, Hae-sun watched her hands and said carefully, "This knife cuts better." "It's fine. I'm more comfortable with what I'm used to." It was a short exchange, but the air turned cold. Outside the window, the late autumn sunlight was fading. Inside the living room, there was an unfamiliar scent mixed into the air. Having a stranger sitting in a familiar home, it was a bigger change than she'd expected. Hae-sun smiled, but somewhere in her heart, it stung strangely. As Ji-yeon got ready to leave, she said, "Mother, for the holidays, I think it'd be better if we spent them separately, as with my family, you with yours. It's just easier that way, don't you think?" She said it like it was nothing. But Hae-sun's hands froze for a moment. "I see. That's what young people do these days, I guess." Hae-sun forced the words out like she was squeezing them from somewhere deep. When the door closed, the house fell silent again. On the table sat half-eaten fruit and cold soup. Hae-sun just sat there, staring blankly. "I guess that's how it is now. Affection doesn't show itself the way it used to." She muttered it almost to herself. On the wall hung a family photo, her husband and 2 sons, all smiling. Hae-sun stared at it, lost in old thoughts. Her years as a teacher, calling out students' names every day. Even while she taught so many children, she'd never once looked into her own family's hearts the way she would in a classroom. She regretted that version of herself a little. Distance between people, it's measured by the heart, not by time. She murmured quietly, running her fingers over the tablecloth. The fabric felt cold to the touch. As the night deepened, Hae-sun's heart swayed uneasily. A new family member had arrived, yet somehow the world felt farther away. Next holiday, maybe we'll still get together at least once. She tried to comfort herself with that. But the words carried a premonition. When the next holiday came, that distance might grow even wider. That night, under the kitchen light, she cleared the table one last time. As she lined up the chopsticks neatly, she whispered, "Is this how family begins? Or, is this how it drifts apart?" Then she closed the window and looked up at the sky. Between the dark clouds, moonlight trickled faintly through. That light seeped into her eyes too. It wasn't sadness, it was a quiet sense of what was coming. After that day, every evening, Jung Hae-sun set out one extra chair at the table, waiting for the day when the family would gather again. A Saturday in December, when the early winter wind had turned biting. Jung Hae-sun was folding blankets by the window. Her fingertips still bore the marks of years of needlework. After her husband passed, the only thing that filled the empty spaces in the house was organizing. Tidying things brought her comfort, but it couldn't bridge the gaps between people. Her eldest daughter-in-law, Ji-yeon, hardly ever visited after the wedding. Not on holidays, not on birthdays, just a single text message to mark the occasion. "Mother, take care of yourself." The sentence was proper, but there was no warmth in it. Hae-sun would start typing a reply, then delete it. "Yeah, if I say too much, she'll probably feel pressured." Then one day, her second son Min-soo brought someone home. His soon-to-be wife, Lee So-yeon. Her first impression was bright. "So nice to meet you, mother. I've heard so much about your cooking." Her tone carried warmth before awkwardness. Hae-sun smiled instinctively. Come in, come in. It's cold out, isn't it? Come inside." The moment So-yeon stepped in, she looked around the living room. "Mother, this house feels so cozy. It has that lived-in warmth to it." That one sentence made Hae-sun's eyes well up a little. No one's ever said something like that before. She turned toward the kitchen, trying to hide her reaction. That evening, Hae-sun opened up in a way she hadn't in a long time. "I hear young people these days don't make kimchi anymore. Our family kimchi is kind of special, though. I'd love to learn. Could I help you make it sometime?" The words felt so natural. They were almost strange. She nodded. "Then come by next week. The cabbage should be ready by then." The following week, the kitchen was thick with the smell of kimchi making. So-yeon wore rubber gloves and mixed in the red pepper flakes. "Mother, I love this spicy smell." "You do? Doesn't it sting your eyes?" "It does, but it's fun." Hae-sun burst out laughing. It had been so long since laughter filled the kitchen. Just then, the phone rang. The screen read, "Ji-yeon." Hae-sun pulled off her gloves and answered. "Ji-yeon, it's been a while." "Mother, what are you doing right now?" "Making kimchi." With So-yeon. A short silence. "Oh, I see. I've been really busy with work lately." "We don't have to do that kind of thing. Do we?" "No, if you're busy, it can't be helped. Don't push yourself." The conversation ended quickly. Even after hanging up, Hae-sun's mind wasn't at ease. Why am I always in the same place, while they keep drifting further away? She muttered it to herself. A few days later, Ji-yeon showed up without warning. "Mother, I saw the kimchi photos from last time." So-yeon looked like she was doing a great job. Her tone sounded cheerful, but there was something odd underneath. Hae-sun forced a smile. "Yeah, she's got good hands. You should join us next time if you've got time." "I can't do stuff like that. Your kimchi is the best anyway, mother." The words were a compliment, but her expression was stiff. A little while later, her son Yujin arrived. "Mom, it's been a while since Ji-yeon came by, huh?" "She's been so busy, but she made time to visit." "Yeah, I appreciate it. It's good to see your face." "Mother, could we maybe take some of the kimchi home with us?" "Of course. There's some in the fridge, take as much as you want." Ji-yeon nodded instead of answering. But after that day, the calls became even more infrequent. As winter deepened, Hae-sun felt a small discomfort growing. When she thought about her two daughters-in-law, her heart felt split. One was affectionate, but sometimes it felt like too much. The other was distant, but left a longing behind. Whose mother am I? Whose mother-in-law? She asked herself. That New Year's, only the younger couple came to the house. So-yeon bowed and offered rice cake soup. "Mother, I hope you stay healthy this year." "You too, sweetheart. You have to be happy." The table was warm, but a corner of her heart felt hollow. The absence of her eldest daughter-in-law kept catching her eye. That night, Hae-sun opened an old letter box. Inside were wedding invitations, handwritten notes, and holiday photos all mixed together. In the photos, Ji-yeon was smiling brightly. Back then, things hadn't been awkward between them. She ran her fingers over the picture and said quietly, "Where did things start to change for us?" A few days later, she ran into Ji-yeon by chance at the grocery store. "Mother?" "Oh, Ji-yeon. What a surprise. You must come here a lot these days. Yeah, just picking up groceries. After a brief exchange, Ji-yeon lifted her shopping basket and said, these days. Your younger daughter-in-law's really taking care of you. Huh? Don't say things like that. Being a good daughter-in-law isn't about who's first or second. But still, you give her more of your heart. Don't you? The moment the words left her mouth, the air went cold. Hae-sun was speechless for a moment. That's because you're the one who distanced yourself from me. I didn't push you away. I felt like you were too much for me. And now? Now, I don't really know. Ji-yeon said that and turned around. Her figure walking away looked as fragile as leaves scattering in the wind. When Hae-sun got home, she stood in front of the mirror. The face staring back at her looked tired, with deep shadows under her eyes. When did family become this hard? She whispered it. Her hands trembled, but somewhere in her heart, she made a quiet promise. I can't let things stay like this. I have to try again. She opened an old planner with her fingers. On the cover, it read, Family Gathering Schedule. On a page that had been blank for so long, Hae-sun slowly picked up a pen. Spring, let's make a day for the family to come together again. The ink soaked into the paper, spreading her resolve across the page. And she quietly added, this time, let's start with the heart. Outside, the late winter wind was blowing. The wind was cold, but somewhere in it, there was the scent of a new beginning. Jung Hae-sun closed the window and murmured, next season. Maybe things can get a little warmer. Early March, when spring was just barely beginning to creep in. Jung Hae-sun opened her old planner again. She stopped at the sentence she'd written a few days earlier. Spring, let's make a day for the family to come together again. The handwriting was crooked, but it held a firm resolve. She stood up quietly. Outside the window, fine pollen drifted through the air. And the wind carried the scent of earth. I guess it's time to start. She said it to herself as she tidied up one side of the living room. She pulled back the old curtains and wiped down the picture frames. The family in the photos seemed to meet her eyes, one by one. A few days later, Hae-sun called her son Yujin. Yujin, what do you think about having a family gathering this spring? A gathering? Yeah, just everyone sitting down for a meal together. Like we used to. That sounds great. But I'm not sure if Ji-yeon will be okay with it. She's been swamped at work lately. Still, ask her for me. Tell her I miss her. Hae-sun's voice was careful, but underneath, there was a faint tremor. After she hung up, she pulled out an old tea set. She glued the cracked pieces back together and wiped off the dust. That tea set used to sit on the table every holiday. Will we be able to smile like we did back then? She let out a small sigh, as if asking herself. A few days later, Ji-yeon called. Mother, I heard about the family gathering. Yeah, it's spring, so I thought it'd be nice if we all got together. The timing's a little tricky that day. Then we can pick another day. What matters is that we're together. A brief silence. Okay, I'll see if we can adjust our schedule. The call ended smoothly enough, but a strange unease lingered in Hae-sun's chest. That night, she couldn't sleep. The second hand on the clock sliced through the kitchen's silence. I'm still waiting, aren't I? She whispered, staring at the light. Seeping through the curtain. A few days later, her younger daughter-in-law So-yeon called. Mother, let me help you get ready for the gathering. It's okay, you're busy. No, I want to. You'll be exhausted doing it all yourself. Her eyes welled up a little at those words. All right then. Come by on Saturday. Saturday morning, the kitchen came alive again. So-yeon went shopping, washed the lettuce, and made soup. Mother, this pot's pretty old. The wear on it is kind of beautiful. Yeah, your father-in-law bought that for me. Then I'd better take extra good care of it. She laughed playfully, and Hae-sun found comfort in that laugh. Around lunchtime, Ji-yeon and Yujin arrived. Mother, it's been a while. Come in, come in. I've got everything set up. On the table sat japchae, braised short ribs, bellflower root salad, and kimchi. Ji-yeon looked at the kimchi for a moment before speaking. This is the kimchi you made last time, isn't it? That's right. So-yeon and I made it together. I see. She smiled faintly, but her gaze stayed fixed on the far end of the table. The meal continued quietly. Yujin tried to lighten the mood. But with every sentence, the air seemed to cool in some odd way. So-yeon picked up the ladle. And said, Ji-yeon, can I get you more soup? I'm fine. I've had enough already. In that short reply, a chill passed through. Hae-sun set down her chopsticks. Ji-yeon, thank you for coming today. It's been so long, it's really good to see you. Mother, it's been a while for me too. How's work been? It's fine, but, Ji-yeon hesitated. I want to look after family the way you do. But sometimes it just feels like too much. Her words were calm, but they struck hard against Hae-sun's chest. A silence hung in the air. Hae-sun slowly nodded. I see. I didn't want to make you feel pressured. But you always have such high standards, Mother. It was hard for me to keep up. I didn't realize. Her voice shook slightly. I just wanted the family to be together, that's all. I know. But that feeling of yours, it was so perfect it scared me. At those words, the air above the table seemed to freeze. Yoojin tried to redirect the conversation. I think we all had some misunderstandings. But Ji-yeon quietly set down her chopsticks and stood up. Mother, I'll see you next time. Ji-yeon, we haven't even had dessert yet. She paused at the door and said, Mother, I tried in my own way. But your heart, it's too deep. I just can't reach it. As the door closed, Hae-sun's hands trembled. So Yeon came over and handed her a handkerchief. Mother, are you okay? I'm fine. Days like this happen, I guess. She forced a smile, but her eyes were looking somewhere far away. When night fell, Hae-sun opened the planner again. Spring, let's make a day for the family to come together again. Below it, she quietly added one more line. Hearts gathered, but spring hasn't come yet. She set down the pen and opened the window. A cold breeze brushed past the curtain. In the distance, a single plum blossom swayed. A gentle smile spread across her face. Still, spring will come. Someday. That night, the ticking of the living room clock sounded unusually clear. The time in her heart, which had been standing still, began to move again very, very slowly. The morning after the spring rain, the air was unusually cold. Jung Hae-sun woke up before dawn. On the table sat yesterday's leftovers, still untouched. As she cleared them away, she muttered to herself, it's okay. Days like this happen. But her hands kept trembling. Her daughter-in-law Ji-yeon's words kept echoing in her ears. Your heart, it's too deep. I just can't reach it. Those words had circled in her mind all night long. She made tea and opened her planner. Spring, let's make a day for the family to come together again. Below it, another line caught her eye. Hearts gathered, but spring hasn't come yet. She picked up the pen and added one more line. You can't force spring to come. But you can wait for it. That afternoon, her younger daughter-in-law So-yeon called. Mother, should I come help you again this weekend? It's okay. I'm going to do this one on my own. But if I come, no, this time I need to do it myself. There was firmness in Hae-sun's voice. When the weekend came, she went to the market early in the morning. Mackerel, water dropwort, wild chives, and the soy sauce paste. She'd made herself. This time, I'm going to show my heart directly. That's what she thought as she looked up Ji-yeon's address. Late in the afternoon, she packed food containers into a small bag. In the taxi, she held her hands tightly together. The face reflected in the window was stiff with tension. It's okay. This time, I have to say it. She arrived at a newly built apartment complex. Standing at the front door, she hesitated before pressing the buzzer. Her heart was racing. She took a small breath and pressed the button. Yes, who is it? Ji-yeon's voice came through the speaker. It's me. It's Mother. After a short silence, the door opened. Mother, what brings you here? I just came. Let's talk for a bit. Ji-yeon looked surprised, but she opened the door. The living room was neat, with a subtle fragrance in the air. Please, sit down. Let me get you some tea. It's okay. Actually, I brought something. Hae-sun took out the food containers and set them on the table. This is wild chive salad, and this is soy braised beef. You made all this yourself? Yeah, these are things we used to have on our table all the time. Ji-yeon looked at the dishes for a moment, then asked carefully, why? Did you come so suddenly? Well, what you said the other day, it stayed with me. The other day? You said my heart was too deep for you to reach. Ji-yeon's expression hardened. That was just. I was feeling confused when I said that. I know. But after hearing it, I really hated myself. Hated yourself? I just wanted the family to be together. But I guess that became a burden to someone. Ji-yeon looked away. Mother, it's not that I don't like you. It's just, you were always so perfect, there was never any space for me to fit in. Perfect? I'm far from that. No, you always knew the right way to do things. And that made me feel small. In that moment, the air grew heavy. Hae-sun slowly stood up from her chair. Ji-yeon, I'm only now starting to understand. It wasn't that I wanted to be right, I was scared. Scared? Scared of being left alone. Scared that people would drift away. So I kept holding on, interfering, setting standards. Ji-yeon's eyes wavered. She slowly stood up and faced Hae-sun. Mother, I'm sorry. Your generation lives differently, but I only tried to understand things from inside my own world. Her voice trembled. But I just didn't want you to be lonely. A silence fell between them. Rain began to fall again. The raindrops outside filled the quiet between them. Ji-yeon spoke softly. I didn't hate you either, Mother. I didn't want to become too much like you. So I kept my distance. Didn't want to be like me. Hae-sun repeated those words. That's okay. You don't have to be like me. But let's try to understand each other. Ji-yeon slowly nodded. I'll try, but right now, just give me a little time. Of course, I'll wait. I won't rush this time. She closed the lid on the food container. Just leave this here. It tastes even better when it cools down. Ji-yeon bowed her head slightly and answered quietly, Thank you, Mother. In the taxi on the way home, Hae-sun looked out the window. Streetlights blurred across the rain-soaked roads. Her heart swayed like those lights, but somehow, she felt lighter. A heart I couldn't reach, it moved, just a little. She took out her planner and wrote one line. Sincerity can be heavy, but that weight changes people. Sunlight began to seep through the window again. She looked at that light and whispered, I can finally hear spring coming. And she quietly added, but for spring to fully arrive, there's still one more step to take. Her hand stopped on the planner. She opened the last page. Chapter 5. Spring returns, back to family. She smiled and set down the pen. At last, the door to her heart, closed for so long, was beginning to open. Sunlight gently wrapped around the inside of the house. After what felt like a long winter, Jung Hae-sun's living room now held a new potted plant. The scent of soil was soft in the air, and at the window, a small bird landed briefly before flying away again. She quietly opened her planner. On the last page, a sentence was written. Spring eventually returns, but not the way it was before. Hae-sun slowly ran her fingers across those words. After that day, she and Ji-yeon stayed in touch regularly. It started with a short text message. Mother, thank you for the food. It was delicious. I'm glad you liked it. Those simple exchanges, awkward at first, gradually loosened the air between them. As time passed, Ji-yeon came to visit on her own. It was a Saturday afternoon after the spring rain had cleared. Mother, I brought this for you. She held out a small paper bag. Inside were homemade cookies. You baked these yourself? Yeah, these days, this is my way. Hae-sun smiled quietly. Well, your way is pretty warm too. The two of them drank tea and had a long conversation for the first time in ages. The talk was careful, but deep. They no longer avoided each other's wounds. Ji-yeon said, Mother, family still feels hard to me. I know. It does for me too. Maybe it's harder because we're family. At that, they both laughed at the same time. Like the sound of old ice melting, the laughter was gentle, but undeniably warm. A few days later, Hae-sun called her son Yoojin. This weekend, can you stop by for a bit? Sure. Is something going on? No, I just want to eat together. I'll come with Ji-yeon. She hesitated for a moment, then answered softly. Okay, take your time. That day, she set a simple table. It wasn't elaborate like before. Instead, there was room enough for everyone to sit together comfortably. When Yoojin and Ji-yeon arrived, she greeted them warmly. Come in, come in. Today I'm not the chef. We're each going to make one thing. Then I'll do the seasoned vegetables. Ji-yeon answered with a smile. Her voice carried more warmth now than discomfort. Laughter spread across the table. As Yoojin served rice, he said, It's been so long since the three of us ate together like this. It really has. Hae-sun smiled and picked up her chopsticks. Family doesn't mean you have to be stuck together. But if your hearts are facing each other, that's being together. At her words, Ji-yeon nodded. I think I'm finally starting to understand what you mean, mother. That evening, after the meal, Ji-yeon offered to do the dishes. I'll take care of it. No. Today, I'm doing it. You rest, mother. At that, Hae-sun smiled softly. She stood by the window and looked up at the sky. The sunset was painting the kitchen window. A sunset spread through her heart as well. I guess relationships are like this too. Little by little, we mix our light together and make something new. She whispered quietly, spring is finally really here. As night deepened, the house was quiet after everyone had left. But that quiet wasn't loneliness. Hae-sun opened her planner again. On the last page, she quietly wrote one sentence. The human heart is like the seasons. You have to go through winter to welcome spring, and when spring comes, you eventually share it again. She closed the pen and smiled. Before turning off the living room light, she lit a small candle. The flame slipped through the curtains and flickered in the night air. In that moment, the sound of wind outside felt almost like someone whispering. It's okay now. Everything's going to be all right. Jung Hae-sun looked up at the sky. One star, then two, appeared. She quietly greeted that light. Thank you, everyone. And she whispered slowly, now, really spring is here. The clock in the living room kept moving gently forward. The time that had stopped was completely released. Her heart and that house, they were both alive and moving again.